I'm Dan Grabois, and this is Life in Time of Pandemic. Today I'm talking with Lauren Davis. It is April 24th, 2020. Hi, Lauren.
Hi, Dan. How are you?
I'm okay. How are you?
I'm actually really great. I'm great.
Good. We'll get into that in a second. So we were almost neighbors in Croton-on-Hudson, New York. You still live in Croton. Now
Yeah.
we're in Wisconsin. And tell us what's going on. First of all, what do you do professionally?
Well, professionally, I'm a social worker and I'm also a painter. And so I work 4 days a week in a clinic, but we've been working from home because of the coronavirus, of course. And then the rest of the time I'm down here in my studio.
Okay. Croton is about 25 miles from New York City, so you're not right in the epicenter of this thing, but
No,
you're not that far either. Has this touched you in any way?
yeah, actually, because when when it became clear that we were all dealing with this in New York, um, the day I left my office, which was March 11th, I work in a medical facility clinic, and they sent a patient up to have an intake done with me who had 104 temperature, and he was playing with his mask out in the waiting room. So I went to my supervisor's office and I said, I don't think this is a good idea. And she told me that I needed to use my cognitive behavioral skills to calm myself down. And I said, I'm going home.
That's a behavioral skill that turned out to be very appropriate for our time.
So, yeah, so they forced me to take 2 weeks of medical leave because they wouldn't allow me to work from home. And then they sent, and then now I'm doing telemental health, which is breaking my brain. And it has impacted me because I'm seeing, as of this last week, I'm seeing the effects of this. I have several patients I have a patient whose husband died this week. And even though Croton is very tiny, we have a lot of cases, and in the last 2 weeks, we had about 4 people under the age of, mid-50s who died. So it's been intense, and I can't go I'm not going to the grocery store or anything, and like everybody, walking with a mask and being careful.
But we had thought, I mean, we're still in such an early stage. We're talking about a month and a half since your first mask catastrophe happened.
Yeah.
And the word on the street still is you're fine if you're under 50, but that is not the case, it sounds like.
It doesn't seem to be the case. It seems like seems like a lot of people are getting hit with this thing. And because I'm not under 50, and so and because I've had somewhat of a medical history myself, I decided it was better to be cautious. And I felt very panicky and terrified initially. And it's certainly strange for all of us, I think, but I feel a little bit guilty because I'm having so much fun painting.
Well, it's wonderful to have an artistic outlet, and this is what I encourage with my students as well. Time of being shut in is a time where you can really hone your craft.
Yes.
And we don't have to immerse ourselves entirely in the negative.
No, I don't. I feel in fact that I'm very, very skilled at social isolation. I'm enjoying it, actually. It's weird because I live by myself. So it's a little, there is this thought like, what if something happens? Except that I feel so taken care of by my community. Everybody's checking on me and, do you need this? Do you need that? It's a close-knit kind of community right here. And I feel really grateful to have a job that too. Yeah.
Of course.
Yeah.
And I mean, obviously we need therapists now more than ever. And coming out of this, that will be a continued need.
Yeah, it's really quite something. Just some of I talked to a woman this week who her husband was 51. They said he was stable, and then an hour later he died. And yeah, it's terrifying.
Is there a such thing as practicing therapy on yourself when you get down in the dumps? I mean, do any of your skills transfer over to healing yourself?
Well, um, when it works, yeah. I mean, I guess I'm not so down in the dumps. I feel pretty great, but I know that when well, I've been in therapy like for a million years, so it would be good if it worked by now. So maybe it does.
So, how do you get groceries? How do you feed yourself?
Well, I have a neighbor who lives right behind me, and she goes shopping at ShopRite, and she went and got me stuff tonight. And there's also did you guys know about Kitchewan Farms when you lived here? Was that here,
Does
the
not sound
organic?
familiar.
We have a really wonderful organic uh, farm nearby, and they do a thing where you can order stuff online and then go and they put it in you do everything online, and then they put it in your trunk. So I'm doing that too, to get eggs and cheese and yogurt and stuff like that.
That's great.
Um, yeah, yeah. So
We have a wonderful butcher shop here, and I went there right at the beginning of when things were exploding. And I went into the butcher shop, and I had to hand the guy behind the counter my credit card.
ah,
And
yeah,
it was, I mean, things hadn't crystallized with this new way that we do things now. And
yeah,
it was yucky. And I went back today, and it was exactly as you described. So you call in your order, then you phone them when you're in the parking lot, and you open your trunk, and in it goes, and off you go. And hopefully that's safe.
yeah. I mean, there was all this stuff about, do you clean stuff off? I try to let stuff that can sit on the porch. I mean, I'm lucky I have a porch. I'm not in the city, I can do that. But it's a little, it is nerve wracking because nobody seems to know where it comes from, where it goes, how you get it, all that kind of stuff. So
It is nerve-wracking, that's for sure. There are two train lines into New York City. There's the Amtrak expensive train, and then there's the commuter train. Do you know
right.
if those trains are running?
I think they are running, because I do know that I have a good friend who is he's a pathologist, he's a liver specialist at Bellevue, and he's still going into work every day, and I know he takes the train.
Have
Yeah.
you been into the city since the 11th of March?
No, why would I do that? No, I haven't. I barely have driven my car. I go pick up the groceries. I walk around the block. If I take a walk, I sometimes do it late at night, because sometimes, I know this sounds funny, but because we're in the suburbs and we have more room and all that kind of jazz, but sometimes people are not that, like a runner goes by behind you and he runs up on you and doesn't give you a wide berth, and he's not wearing a mask. And I don't know, it just seems crazy to me not to be sort of super cautious. That's
I
my feeling
agree.
about it.
I completely agree. Today in Madison, Wisconsin, where we live, there was a rally around the Capitol against the governor, Governor Evers, protesting the shutdown of the state, with hundreds of people, lots of guns, ammunition, some masks, but not that many, and certainly no social distancing. A student of mine who had a lesson today went for a run and passed by the Capitol Square and took a look, and was astonished, showed me some pictures of that at his lesson later in the day. So what do you think of this kind of thing? What's going on in people's heads? Do you have any theories?
Yeah, they're fucking crazy. No, that's not a very nice thing to say, but I don't know. I don't know. I'll tell you something. I've been trying to figure this out for the last few years. I have a theory about it. I think it's based on a fantasy of that somebody up there is in charge, which those of us who don't feel there is anybody in charge that gets what they should be doing is, I think they think someone's in charge. I think they have a fantasy that they operate on fear, and they feel there's a lot of fantasies of omnipotence and a lot of hubris. I mean, no, I don't really understand it. And I think that's why something that was so infuriating to me when I suggested we all be working from home several weeks before or whatever, two of my bosses are support 45, and they were, so they were like, this is nothing's going to happen. Do you know what? I've been a therapist for 25 years. I don't have a clue what it's about. I really don't. I don't know. Doesn't make any sense to me.
Let me ask you this. And
Yeah.
answer without violating any confidences, obviously, but are you finding in your patients, obviously I'm sure you're finding a lot of fear and anxiety. Are you finding anger as well? Is there some undirected anger? You're not.
Oh yeah.
Oh, you
It's
are.
very fair. Oh yes. Very. People are in. Yes. I mean, I had you mean at our government?
I don't know. Anywhere.
Yeah.
Is there?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. People, I mean, someone I saw this week, the woman who lost her husband, she's enraged, and her husband died, so feels bereft and terrible. And the note in the referral, she said to the primary doctor that she wanted a therapist who wouldn't just listen to her feelings, but would tell her how to get through this. And I said, I saw the referral, and I'm not going to be the therapist for you because I have no clue how you get through this. That, I think, made her feel better because she knew that I wasn't lying to her.
Is part of your job to help people get through, or is your job mostly to listen, or how would you characterize what you do?
I would say are you talking about what I'm supposed to do according to my job, or what I actually do?
Let's do the first one first and the second one second.
Yeah, what I'm supposed to do, cognitive behavioral therapy.
Let's talk about what that is.
It's like you're supposed to, like if you're thinking bad thoughts and they make you feel bad and they make you do bad things, you're supposed to think different thoughts, and that's supposed to make you feel different things and make you do different things. But that doesn't make any sense to me. So what I really think that I do, I think if I'm any good at what I do, it's because when I'm with somebody who's in the room with me, I am trying to be present, be a witness, people always want you to give them advice. I try very hard not to, I don't think that's useful, because it's really about, and a lot of the people that I see, I would say 90% of the people I see are maybe 80% undocumented, Spanish-speaking folks who are in this country, who have experienced lots of different kinds of hardships, and they're very scared. A lot of them don't have insurance. It's very tough. So maybe I'm somebody who's just like can speak their language and is listening. I don't know.
So you're able to conduct sessions in Spanish with those people?
Oh yeah. Yeah.
Is that a
Yes.
requirement for a
Yeah,
job
for
like
my
this?
job, yes. Yeah. I mean, I've been working with people who speak Spanish for my whole career because I lived in Latin America when I was young. So that's,
So you're fluent in the language.
yes, sometimes if I haven't had enough coffee by 3 o'clock, stuff gets, jumbled up. I don't know.
Happens to the best of
Has that
us.
happened to you with your French, or are you very, very fluent?
Oh, it can happen. I can
Yeah.
certainly struggle.
I know, you knew Charlie, my husband, and he was very, very fluent in French. I think he worked so long in French that I don't think that happened to him. He didn't seem to. I don't know if that happened to him, but I know it happens. I mean, I speak Spanish 4 days a week, mostly.
Wow.
Not always, but mostly. Yeah.
Wow. So your husband, Charlie, who was an absolutely wonderful man,
Yeah.
died a year.
December 26, 2018.
Okay.
Yeah.
So that recovery has been, of course, extremely painful for you and probably unaccomplished as far as a recovery. But yet you're working and you're painting. So your painting must be quite therapeutic for you.
Yeah. Do you want to see it?
Yeah, we'd love to.
Should I take you on a little tour?
Why don't we have a little tour?
I don't know if this will work, but
This is working great.
I did this yesterday.
Is that a
And
view across the Hudson River?
that's from down by the train station,
Mm-hmm.
where the marshy area is.
Mm-hmm.
This is this piece. I don't know. Can you see that one?
Yeah, the one up on top of the shelf.
Yeah, that's a commission that I've done for somebody that they said they're going to buy, but I can't see them yet,
Of
So
course.
yeah, and then just you know, just some stuff and my paint, some of my paint stuff, and my drawings, and it's really fun when I I do miss my husband desperately, and the only thing that's very different about my house since he passed away is that I don't know if you guys were ever down in this room before, but it was very different. You couldn't walk in here. It was dark and filled with lots of Charlie's papers and things. And I renovated down here, and I was thinking I was going to have to rent it out, but thank God I didn't, since we're in the middle of a pandemic. I don't really want to deal with that. And I'm using it as my studio, and I feel very lucky.
So it seems like your painting has really become an outlet for you emotionally and probably always was, but did you reach a new realization about the role painting was playing for you as we became shut in? Did it somehow deepen in your mind or alter in its significance?
Well, what the biggest alteration for me recently was when I was on forced medical leave. I was down here, 6, 7, 8 hours a day, and feeling like if anybody found out, I would get arrested and taken to jail.
Arrested for painting would be a new
Yeah,
one.
because I was having too much fun. So no, I don't know if it's, I think what it is, Dan, and I don't know if other people have this experience. I feel a little guilty saying this, but it's because I'm lucky and because I'm not sick and I'm not struggling with that aspect of this terrible thing. There's this sort of forced, there's this way that I don't have to do anything because there's this big restriction. You have to stay in your box. So if you have to stay in your box, have fun in your box. That's, I think, maybe what's happening. And I think there's something wrong with me because I don't care that I'm not going out to dinner or hanging out with people, or I wave to people across the street and they say hi, and I think, oh, that's good. Bye.
Well,
Does
I
that
know
make
you're
me a bad
keeping
person? What?
I know you're keeping in contact with friends because I see my wife on the phone with you
All
frequently.
the time. Yeah, yeah.
And I think that's important. And that's probably for many people one of the hardest things is not having that contact. But thank God for FaceTime and the iPhone or the cell phone. I mean, these things are making our lives much easier. Spotify for musicians, where they can have a whole music library available to them.
Or they can do, you can do your concert on video or online or
With
sort
mixed success.
of mix.
But it's interesting what you say, because I'm trying to stress for my own French horn students, and we're
Mhm.
about to go into our final week of classes, that,
Gosh.
that you can interpret a period of shut-in as a prison sentence or as an opportunity.
Hmm.
This can be the time from now, from May 1st, when we have our final day of classes, until the end of August, when we may come back, is an opportunity for a musician to have just unbelievable growth. And yes, it's hard to take advantage of that. So even you, who are an adult and comfortable with yourself, feel a little bit of guilt at having so much fun doing your painting.
Right, right.
And yet it can be an opportunity in some crazy way.
Yeah, I think, I mean, I feel grateful that that seems to be the way it's occurring to me. I wouldn't have the audacity to presume that it will remain, so I'm just grabbing it while I can, you know?
Yeah, well, it's just a great attitude, of course. And maybe we can all learn in our lives when the pandemic is over that we need to grab these pleasures when we can. I mean, maybe that's a lesson that we've lost in our frenzy to make more money and to produce more things. I mean, maybe there's
Right.
a deep lesson there in what you're telling us.
I think it's, I don't know why when you're saying that, it makes me feel, I'm feeling some sadness, or maybe it's because, you know, um, I don't know. I don't know what it is, but there's, yeah, I think there's, I'm not sure, but it's just it brings up when we, before we started actually talking, you said, can I say that you asked me if it was okay if I talked about Charlie? And
Sure.
I said, yeah, it's okay, because I'm all there and with it. And somebody said to me a few days ago, gosh, you seem like you're not as sort of thinking so much or talking so much about feeling so lonely and sad about missing Charlie. And I thought, yeah, well, that's because we're in the middle of another fucking train wreck. You know, it's like, there've been, as you know, I lost my husband, and then 6 weeks later lost my nephew, and there were a lot of things for me in the last year. And this is going to bring up, I think there are going to be a lot of people that are going to have different kinds of trauma. All, you know, everyone's losing people they know here in New York anyway, that's for sure.
Have you
Is it,
noticed? Go ahead.
no, go ahead. No,
Have you
go ahead.
noticed any effect? So Croton, which many people probably don't know, is a really small town, and it is a suburb of New York, but it does not have a suburban feel. It has a rural feel to it.
Right.
Um, and I don't know, do you know the population? It's got to be
I
very,
do. I do, because I looked it up, because it's just slightly over 8,000
so very,
people.
very small town.
Small,
Um,
yeah.
and so the loss of even 4 lives in a town of 8,000 is tremendous. Have you noticed a different, and there's going to be probably lots of businesses that go under in Croton. I mean, there aren't that
All,
many businesses. That's happening already.
yeah. Well, everybody's closed, of course. I mean, the cow, he's still selling beans, and the Chinese restaurant is closed, and all the businesses are closed. But people are trying to do curbside for the restaurants and trying to support. But I don't know if you knew, did you know the cobbler, Jorge,
I
in
did
the
not.
middle of the village?
No.
You know, I have like 2 pairs of shoes. He's been fixing them for the last 25 years. He died last week, and it
Oh,
was
wow.
very sad. It
Yeah.
was, yeah. So that's right. We're noticing the losses, and I every second I feel grateful that I have to do cognitive behavioral therapy and do all my notes correctly and get them locked by the end of the day.
How
Right?
many hours a day do you work during therapy from home, and how do you conduct it?
I work, well, on Mondays I work from 8:30 to 7 at night. And I see, now what I do is I do I call someone, and I either do a FaceTime call or WhatsApp. We're not allowed to do Zoom because
Right.
apparently
Privacy.
it
Yes.
happens. Yeah. And then I work then Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday I work 8 to 5, and then Thursday I work half a day. So I
So
really work 4 days.
you're spending a lot of time with patients, and probably many of them in crisis.
Yes, I would say some people are doing well or okay, and my patients who usually aren't doing so well are they're doing poorly. It's very, yeah. I think the thing that we're seeing too is there's a lot of, haven't seen it in the last few weeks, but I deal with a lot. Frequently I have domestic violence situations or child abuse or that kind of stuff, and that's very terrifying because people are sort of not able to get away
Yeah, I can
from these
imagine the
situations.
conditions today would exacerbate that
Yeah,
tremendously.
yeah, yeah. I've heard that there's been a spike in DV cases and that kind of stuff. The hardest part was for the first few weeks I had a screen that was about the size of my iPad and I couldn't see my notes, and I was like, good thing I learned how to type the jumps over the brown fox or whatever it was in 7th grade without looking at my hands, because I was just getting terrible migraines. And now I have a big screen, but I have to talk on this phone. So I say to people, like with you, your setup, you're not moving around. But most people, when they do this, they're like walking around their house. And so I say, please, can you put the phone down in a stable place? And with the kids don't get that. And I say, I know you want to see me throw up, don't you? So
Hmm.
that is so fine. That's been a little better because I don't put the visual thing on until then. And then we have, this group meeting on the phone a couple times a week with my staff, and,
I can
luckily
imagine.
that's not video. Yeah.
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 Um, I've talked to a lot of musicians through this crisis, and I'm always with them looking for silver linings in the use of this technology that you and I are using now. And in fact, there
Mm,
are some silver linings for musicians, such as bringing in guests from far away to talk to their students, which is,
yeah.
uh, now we know that you can do this on using technology. Hopefully we'll continue to do it even after the pandemic is over, or whatever constitutes over. Um, are there any silver linings to seeing patients on these media platforms, or is it a complete loss for you? Is it just
No, no, no,
worse?
no. It's better than not seeing someone in the room. It's better than nothing. Yes.
Right.
Um, I don't know that I think because I have eye difficulty, I have problems. It's difficult for me, but I think, I can look like I'm dressed up from here up and then be in my pajamas here down. The dog is there. Izzy's very happy that I'm home. And I think there's the disadvantage though in my field is that my superiors are thinking, oh, you're seeing more people, so we can give you more to do. And they just keep piling it on, which is not useful. But I do think that it is useful for people to know that they can be reached. And I think the advantage with now whatever we're calling it, telemental health or whatever, is that people, a lot of the people that we see, they can't come into the clinic because they can't get a babysitter, or they don't have a car. It's so someone can reach them and we can talk to them. And I think it's we've all been forced into this, 1, 2, 3, but yeah, there is an advantage in that way.
Right. Ironically, we're not driving. I was out, as I mentioned, going to the butcher shop with my son, also named Charlie, today, and we saw gas for 101.9. I mean, I haven't seen this in 30 years.
No,
So
right.
ironically, at the time where we're barely driving,
Yes.
gas is very, very cheap.
Yeah.
Maybe it's not. Maybe that's supply and demand.
Yeah.
I guess.
I noticed that too. Yeah.
Yeah. But it's definitely a tough time for everybody, and I'm so glad that you have painting, which seems to be a release, a hobby that's becoming a business, a pressure valve, and just plain fun for you. And you
This
have a
this
studio to
this
do
is
it.
my temple down here. Actually 2 nights ago I was down here all by myself and I said a little prayer.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, I want to thank you for speaking to me from your temple.
Thank you. Yeah,
And
it's been fun.
great to hear your thoughts.
Thank you, Dan.
Thank you.
I am sure I'll talk to you soon.
I'm sure.